Welcome to the Eyes Up Mindset podcast, where we explore what it means to grow daily and find our best in every aspect of life.
Welcome back to another episode of the Eyes Up Mindset podcast. I'm John Shirkey here with my friend and co-host, Jamie Wagner. Jamie, good to see you. What's going on today?
We are in the finishing stages on a few things at the house, which is super exciting. Thinking maybe we're going to be moving in here hopefully in the next week or so, but we don't know for sure. Everything takes longer than we think when it comes to this life stuff.
At some point, I mean, I've told you this in our conversations, but we need to have a podcast episode dedicated to your first experience of total renovation of a house, because I think it's one of the biggest tests on a relationship, and also you learn a ton about yourself internally.
Well, and was the hope, right? I mean, we took this on. I am not a handyman, number one. Number two, I have very little experience doing anything like this. This was not something I grew up doing, but I have some desire to be able to do it. And so the conversation was, let's just try, let's take a step towards this thing. Let's live eyes up right now and go and take this thing on. And it's been an amazing learning experience being a student right now. It's been a challenging learning experience as well. But like you said, maybe we'll devote a whole episode to that at some point and talk about what some of those pieces are and how they've challenged us.
I think it probably will be best if we bring in your wife. We'll do a combo interview. I can just, maybe I'll just interview her separately and I'll, put it all together.
That may be a good idea.
But consequently, I wasn't intending on this, but that leads into our conversation in our episode today, because you knew that you wanted to do this renovation. You wanted to learn, you wanted to be a student, right? And you figure out how to do it. You figured out who has done it before. You've asked me some questions, not that I'm the expert, but there's other people that have done those things. And our guest today, that's one of his big concepts, is like, go find people that are getting the results that you want in your life, whatever area, and seek them out, right? Get mentored by them, figure out how they did it.
Yeah, we talked to Greg Reid today, author, has a couple of movies that he's produced and been a part of, was honored by the Napoleon Hill Foundation to kind of carry on the legacy of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich and that line of books. And it was an amazing conversation that challenged us in a lot of ways to look at some things that are not always obvious for us. Go to the source. We talk about taking a step. He's saying, go to the front of the line. Don't take a step. Go all the way to the front of the line and ask the question of the people that know how to do it rather than those that are still in the hustle and the struggle. They might be a step ahead of you, but wouldn't you want to cut your learning curve by 10 or 20 years was a piece of information he said today. And I just think those types of pieces, those nuggets of wisdom, and he leaves us with just an amazing, amazing challenge. I'm really excited for the listeners to get a chance to interact with it.
Greg Reid. Greg, welcome to the Eyes Up Mindset podcast. It's incredible to have you here today. Excited for our conversation.
And we are live. I've been looking forward to this myself. Thanks for having me on.
Greg, you are a multiple published author, and I said right before we got on, our goal is to give stuff away, and that's what we talk about all the time. Give it away, give it away, give it away. And like, your theory of life is like, who you hang out with, what you read are the big things that give us an advantage going forward. Like, my goal for today is to have somebody down the road a little bit show us where we're headed. You've had the opportunity to interview, to be around, to be engaged with these amazing leaders through time. If you had one through line to kind of distill it down and to say this, I'm going right to it, right? If you had one through line from all those conversations, what is the thing that separates those type of people that are massively successful in whatever they do? And success can be defined in whatever way. What have you found in those conversations that you'd say this thing is a big thing?
Yeah, successful people seek counsel and failures listen to opinion. And opinions based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, inexperience, like all your family friends who've never done what you want to do. Counsel's based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. People have paved the way. So if you go to a family friend and say, hey, I'm going to write a best-selling book, they might talk you out of it because they know you got a D in English to protect you. Plus, they've never written a best-selling book. But if you go to Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, sold 1 billion copies, you can say, dudes, here's what you need to know, and give you counsel based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. If we would spend our activity only seeking counsel and ignoring people's opinion, that's the day our lives would change.
So who's done that for you? I mean, if you were going to point to a couple of people that have, whether it's currently or previously, that kind of paved that way for you and poured into you to give you that confidence and that ability to say, hey, you know what, I can do anything that I set my mind to.
Yeah, every day. I mean, every time I have a new experience, that's what I do. So for example, when I went to Pamplona, I went running with the bulls. Actually, you run from the bulls, but I found the guy who wrote the definitive book. I called up and said, hey, dude, I want to have a good time. How do I do it? Not get killed, but have a great experience. And he said, oh, that's easy. Around turn number 7 at this location, stand right in between the street. The bulls will run one side. People trample themselves over here. You'll have a good time in between. That's what I did. When I went to Africa and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, I did not ask a dope smoking surfer to take me to the roof of Africa. I found the Sherpa that I climbed it 900 times. Wherever they put their boot print, I put my boot print. If we watch and follow successful actions of other people, we can do anything and everything our minds could even comprehend.
I think that's an amazing point. Sometimes, and I think Patrick Lencioni talks about this bias of sophistication, right? This idea that we look down on things and we don't want to do it. I think some people have a hard time, humbling themselves to say, I'm gonna go exactly where this person before me went. I'm gonna put my boot exactly where they went, because there's pride or there's arrogance or there's I can do this myself thing. We start out with good intentions. I'm going to seek counsel. I'm going to seek wisdom. I'm going to seek knowledge. And then the next thing we do is say, no, I got this. When does that break? When should that break happen? If it should at all, in your opinion, when do we start to be able to branch out, or should we just follow kind of blindly the people that have done it before?
Well, Napoleon Hill always talked about it. The idea is to seek the people that have accomplished and getting the results you want. So that's how I just live my daily life. I can't tell other people what to do. I just share what people ask what I did. Here's what I did. Look, when I wanted to be a best-selling author, I went to Barnes and Noble. I bought every best-selling book. I didn't go to the best written book section. I didn't want to be a great writing author. I can't spell. I can't read. I'm dyslexic. So I went to the best-selling section and said, guys, how do you do it? What's the system? What's the principle? Because everything's a racket, right? And I found their system, duplicated for myself. And here we are 100 and some odd books later. And the way you do it is just follow successful actions of others. So I just look at myself as a student. The reason why I believe I've accomplished some of the things I have is because I attempt things I've never done before. As you know, I've got a movie that's out on Netflix right now called Wishman. I don't know how to make a movie, but the founder of Make-A-Wish wanted his movies told. So I said I'd grant that wish. So I found a way to do it. But I did not ask my mom and dad and family and friends how to do it. I went to Hollywood. I found people that got Oscars and Emmys and Golden Globes, said, hey, what's the system? How does it work? And I duplicated that for ourselves. And here we are today. So the whole idea, again, you can do anything and everything. Just find who's getting the results you want for yourself. But I'm going to add another word to that: today. And here's why it's important. A good friend of mine, Gene Landrum, started Chuck E. Cheese. So if I wanted to start a new restaurant, I probably wouldn't ask him. He's a good guy and I love the guy, but he did it 40 years ago. I'd say, who's doing In-N-Out or Five Guys or whatever the hot trend is, and ask those people for guidance because they're doing it in today's society. I think all we have to do is start seeking the people that are doing what we want and then duplicate it for ourselves.
Does it have to be somebody at the highest level? Because the examples you're giving are, go find a best-selling author. But what if I want to write a book just for me? How do I get access to those people? Or is it find somebody that is just further along the road that are getting some of the results that I want? Does it have to be the elite of the elite?
Right. And I know you guys set this show up to be one step ahead. And so I apologize in advance, but that's not the way I live my life. I sit there and say, who's getting the ultimate highest end possible results I want? And I jump to the front of the line. To me, it's kind of like, why we did this event called Secret Knock is instead of coaches, teachers, and mentors, I said, what if we just brought in the person who did what everyone else is talking about? So if you want to start a new clothing line, here's the guy who started a multi-billion-dollar brand, UGG boots. If you want to start, a car company, here's Tonino Lamborghini. What if you could just hang out and have tacos with someone who's accomplished what you want at the highest level? It cuts your learning curve 10, 20 years. And so for me, I want to be the beacon to help people do that. In fact, I made a website this year through all the situation called crediblesource.com. And the idea is that you can literally go rent all my friends one at a time or all together as a group to actually sit down and use them as your own board of directors so they can help cut your learning curve as well.
What do you say to people that would say that's like, I'm afraid because I haven't accomplished anything? Like those people are there's a gap here that I'm maybe not unwilling to climb, but I don't know how to climb that thing because I think fear, we're a mindset company. Our thoughts matter. The things that we think about our life manifest themselves in our life. And that's the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich reality also. What happens when that conversation starts with fear?
Well, you're asking me two different questions, and I
Sure.
disagree with the second part of what you just said.
Perfect.
So, Bob Proctor and I wrote the book, Think and Grow Rich, Thoughts Are Things. And we set out with that same mindset, what you just said. 100% that was the thing. And then we changed our mind. And the reason is we realize that thoughts are not things. That it's a fallacy. It's only thoughts backed by action become our realities. We've learned by neuroscientists and the top Harvard professors, we have 64,000 thoughts a day. Unfortunately, most of them are called ANTs. It's an acronym. Automatic negative thought. They're the reptilian part of your brain to protect you. So if you walked out of a cave, a dinosaur wouldn't eat you. Well, in today's society, if we still have 64,000 thoughts a day and most of them are negative, then everything should be horrible around our existence, but it's not. It's only the thoughts in which we take massive action towards become a reality. And the second part of what you said about fear, look, Hill 100 years ago wrote The Six Ghosts of Fear and Think and Grow Rich, the biggest chapter. But he talked about the fear of old age. Are you afraid of getting old? Nope, me neither. No one is. Are you afraid of loss of love? No, divorce rates a gadillion percent. Are you afraid? So 100 years ago, those are true, but they're not true today. Today's one is the fear of the unknown. That's what scares people. It's the fear of pain. That's why the drug commercials do so good. But the biggest one is the fear of criticism, what other people think. And as you've heard me say before, no one's thinking about you. They're dealing with their own situation. Right now is the most ideal time ever. If you've been sitting on an idea, a concept to do something, get off your ass, align with people who have already accomplished it, and start doing it for yourself.
So tell us a little bit about Secret Knock. You touched on it briefly. Let's bring people in that have done it. Go to the source. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about kind of what it is, and how you got involved with that.
Well, for those of you who don't know my history, don't feel bad. I'm not popular at home either. You can ask my son. But the short version is Napoleon Hill wrote a book 100 years ago called Think and Grow Rich. He was given a letter of introduction by a guy named Andrew Carnegie. 100 years later to the date, the surviving grandkids and the foundation that bears his name gave me a very similar letter. And basically, I have a Willy Wonka ticket to meet any human alive. And I write the Think and Grow Rich series through the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Well, having the chance to travel around the planet to meet the most powerful, influential people, folks would say, hey, how do I meet your new friends? So I started an event in my living room, and it accidentally grew into, we're Forbes Inc. entrepreneurs, top, event in the world for entrepreneurs. And the way we did it is there's no VIP rooms. There's none of that hierarchy. You don't even have a name tag. Everyone's the same. And once you're into our circle, you literally have access to all these amazing human beings. We're very particular who we invite in, and you have to jump through a few hoops to get in. But once you're in, it's like nothing you've ever seen. You leave with a Rolodex of the most amazing, powerful people. Last time we did one, it was cool. We had Presidente Vicente Fox, and we started it off with him. And I said, Vicente, I go, let's start our interview slow and we'll work our way up. He goes, all right, Greg. I go, I understand you're building me a wall. Hey, thanks a lot for that. He goes, you son of a, and he just went down a rabbit hole. But then he told a story about how, Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice went to his hacienda and tried to talk him into getting behind the Iraq war and why he wouldn't do it. And when you hear it right from the people who've done it, it's phenomenal. And then he stood around for 3 hours after our event and signed books for everyone and got to meet everyone. And so to us, that's what it's all about.
It's an amazingly powerful reality to get things directly from somebody who's done it before. I think there's just tremendous value in the capacity to say, I don't know, but you do, right? To humble yourself and to say, I'm not certain, you've done it before. How do I, like, what footsteps should I follow? And this honor bestowed upon you by the Think and Grow Rich Foundation, the Napoleon Hill Foundation, to carry that legacy is a tremendous thing, because this idea of books and people, I just keep coming back to this. One of the concepts you've talked about and written about from the Think and Grow Rich concept is this idea of stickability and the power of perseverance. And we haven't gotten there yet, but I hear it kind of underlying this whole process, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. And all these books and products, this is the coolest one here, though. This is neat. This one was the last title Napoleon Hill was supposed to do before he passed away, never did. So the foundation gave it to Sharon Lecter and I, and we interviewed amazing human beings, from the founders of Barefoot Wine to the founder of Pictionary to Oscar winners, to all these different people. And it was really cool to see how the mindset worked. But this is a neat one. This is Napoleon Hill's Road to Riches. I went in the archives and I found vintage home video of Napoleon Hill himself and W. Clement Stone talking about success principles. And I dusted it off and made an audio program where I introduced Stone, who brings on Hill. And then we made a mastermind group of Napoleon Hill's grandson, all the way to Bob Proctor and Les Brown and Brian Tracy and all the cast of characters. And they elaborated how these principles have stood the test of time. And by the way, talk about giving away. This is my first book I ever did. It's called The Millionaire Mentor. This is my 3rd or 4th edition. I'm going to give it away to one of your listeners. So just tell me where to mail it and I'll autograph it and send it out to somebody.
Excellent. Thank you.
We appreciate that. I mean, so this concept that Napoleon Hill found way back 100 years ago, this concept of stickability and perseverance, you've seen this at work. And one of the concepts you've dug into is this 3 feet from goal. Just stay in it. So many people kind of quit before it's there, right?
Yeah. I got a book for that. So 3 feet from gold is the story about R.U. Darby, a gold miner who gave up 3 feet away from the largest strike in history. And the moral is, how many times have we quit one class short from a degree or sales or marketing? It's easy to quit, but it's the people that persevere and go that extra mile. They're the ones that we tell all the stories about. And I find it miraculous that so many people give up literally 3 feet away from the greatest idea that, other people pick up the torch and then they carry it on a little bit and they get all the fame and fortune from it. If you go back and look at everything, even internet stuff right now, look, we had MySpace, right? And then all of a sudden we had Friendster, we had Foursquare, we had all these different things, but Facebook, 4th or 5th in line, they're the ones that picked up the torch and really ran with it. And you go down and look at, we had Napster, all these different things. Now Spotify is rocking. So in today's world, being first in line or first to market isn't necessarily a good thing anymore. It's almost being 3rd, 4th, or 5th and let other people, make the mistakes so that you can pick up the torch and carry it along.
Have you always had this kind of mindset, or where did you learn some of these concepts? I mean, at what point in your life did you start to think differently like you do now? Or does that come naturally?
No, as a child, I got so much trouble for it. It's so ironic to me is that at the end of the day, when I was a kid, I couldn't make money, but I wanted stuff. And so I took the lawnmower and I would charge the neighbors $10 to mow their lawn. And then I'd hire all the other neighborhood kids for $5 to mow the lawn for me, right? I make $5 on the spread. And I got in trouble because I'm taking advantage of the kids, but they were getting what they want. I got what we want. The neighbor got that. Everyone came out on top, but I was in trouble for it. And now I'm glorified for it. So it's like, it's kind of a weird little thing. And you talk about stickability. When I did the book Stickability, I went around and had everyone sign my duct tape. This is signed by so many billionaires and gadillionaires and visionaries around here. One of the guys I did was a guy named Steve Wozniak. He started Apple Computer with Jobs. And I go, how did you and Jobs have so much success? And he says, we embraced our lack. I go, what do you mean? He goes, most people fear what they don't have and run from it. We ran toward it. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, when these little microchip processors came out, they were so expensive, we could afford one chip. He goes, Jobs sold his Volkswagen. I sold my calculator. We pool their money to buy one chip. He goes, but Hewlett Packard would make machines that go from A to B with 20 chips. They had all the money of God. He says, so I pull away 5 and go A to B with 15. I'd pull away 5, get to work with 10. Eventually, went from A to B using our one chip. He goes, Trust me, we were not trying to be innovative or cool or aerodynamic. He goes, we can afford one freaking chip. He goes, but by embracing that as an opportunity, we found the shortest, cleanest path. And by doing that, we changed the way people do personal computing for the rest of the world, for the rest of their life. He said, where could you be in your own business if you stop looking at something as your greatest challenge and obstacle? It could just be your greatest blessing and opportunity in disguise.
And you talked about when you were a kid, that being problematic. When we get these reinforcements that maybe something is wrong or that it's not the right way to do it or the proper way to do it, how do we resist that social norm or what, because I'm sure Wozniak and Jobs at the time, also the social norm was, or the business norm was 20 chips, right? How do we go through that door? How do we walk into that place when it feels like an obstacle too great? You're saying this obstacle is potentially the moment, the turning point, right? But there's this idea that Seth Godin, the dip versus the cul-de-sac, right? When do we see that it's a cul-de-sac versus a dip, because I think that's a really hard place for people. And maybe, I think the question John is saying, is it natural? Does it come easy? My question is, are some people just more inclined to persevere, or is that something we can learn to do and grow and be better at?
Well, I also believe it's what the first thing you said, going back to the very beginning, is we are the same today as we'll be in 5 years, except for two things: the people we meet and the books we read. Well, if you change your association of where you're getting your information from when you have those stumbling blocks, that's where things change. So for example, when I'm writing books and I was having a challenge, I could call the biggest best-selling mega authors in the world, and they would give me feedback to keep me on track. When I was making a movie and having all these trouble, I could call Oscar winner, actors and producers, and they keep me on track. So the key is to always make sure you're calling up and calling out. And now this is where everyone's sitting there going, well, it's easy for you and all that crap in your head right now. Before this moment, you have never heard of me before. So I'm not famous. So that you got to take that away. Nobody knows who I am. So that's not true. The only difference is I have the courage and the fortitude to reach out. And the way I did it was specificity. And this is something that everyone's missing. Specificity. This is how you open up the doors to anyone you want. No one wants their brain picked. No one wants to go to lunch with you. No one wants to go to dinner with you. No one wants, stop. Here's what they want. If I call up the guy who started NASCAR, I don't even know what a NASCAR is. And I said, hey, I want to sit down with you for 12.5 minutes of your time. I promise I'll cover all my own expenses. The moment I walk through the door till the moment I leave will be 12.5 minutes, and I'll start a stopwatch. If not, you can kick me out. I'm just going to ask you one simple question: why you didn't quit through your most stickability moment or whatever it is. The chance of them giving me that 12.5 minutes is 100% because it's specific. They know what it is. They're in their own office. They come downstairs. They don't have to do anything. I made it easy for them to say yes. That's how I open up all these doors. I don't sit there and just want to pick their brain and, drive them nuts. But guess what? 100% of the time when I'm there, the clock goes off, go 12.5 minutes, time to leave. They go, no, let me show you around. And then we become best friends and they come to Secret Knock. That's how it's all worked. But I always honor my promise, but I also enter it with specificity. I'm gonna give you another example. If I'm on stage and there's 10,000 people, it's amazing energy. When I get off, I get rushed with a long line of folks that want to meet you. And they say the nicest things. How can I be of contribution? How can I work with you? How can I do? Those are sweet. But here's the bottom line. I don't know who the frick you are. I don't know what you do. I don't have 30 minutes to do a resume check. But the guy who comes up to me and says, dude, loved your presentation. Saw your Instagram, 500,000 followers. I make great memes. Let me make you one. If you like it, you'll use me. Boom. 15 seconds. I know who you are, what you do. You got my cell phone and we're in contact. Why? That's it. That is the secret sauce, everybody. Specificity.
It's that narrow focus, right? That dial in and laser focus in on the tools that you have or the skills that you can provide that are different than somebody else can potentially provide, right?
Yeah, and it's specificity of why you want their time and how much time it will be. Look, again, if people come to me and they say, hey, I want to do it, I don't have that time. But if someone sits there and says, I need 12.5 minutes or this is what I'm looking for, the answer is always yes, because it's very specific. Or, hey, I want to ask you 3 quick questions. They're all going to be book related. Your favorite book, I just want to hear it in your own voice. Done. Easy. I know it'll take 3 minutes. So those type of things are super simple. But if someone calls me up and says that they want, an hour of my time and put it on their little schedule chart, and 0% chance. It's just truth, right? I mean,
it is. No, I love it. And I think one of the concepts that we talk about in our, when we're working with people around developing a mindset, is things are so actually really simple. They're just not that easy to do, right? That concept is so simple. Be specific. Tell people what you want. Ask for it. Quit worrying about the criticism that you might get or what your family thinks or any of that stuff. Go do what you want to do. It's simple, and keep doing it.
And the family will respect you, admire you, and you'll live by example because you're doing what they want to do, but they're afraid to do. That's the truth too. And one of the other things too, we originally said, you go, well, what if people are afraid and da, da, da. Then don't do it. You know, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. Don't do it. But the people that have got a little cojones that are willing to reach up and reach out, you'll be amazed that the most successful people are the most available people. If you're brand new, you're happy-go-lucky, you're fresh, you're cool. If you're at the top, happy-go-lucky, you got nothing to prove. In the middle, pain in the neck. You're filled with ego. You're edging God out. It's easier, I'm telling you right now, to get to the founder of Remax Real Estate Corporation, a multi-billion-dollar industry, than your local Remax office down the street with, his little Mercedes and 14, agents trying to protect them. And so the whole thing is, I just say, can you go to the front of the line and do it? And that's how my mentality is. It's the same thing. If I was going to sell cars tomorrow, I promise no matter what dealer, I'd sit there and I wouldn't sell a cheap car. I'd say, who's Lamborghinis or Ferraris? And I would walk in and say, who's ringing the bell the most? Who's the leader, sales leader of the board? Who's your number one sales guy? Put me next to that dude, right? That's all I want to be next to, because I want to learn from people that are getting the results you want.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time today. We said 20, 25 minutes. We're going to honor that and respect that. I think the thing that I would challenge our listeners to is it's easier than we think if we just go to the source. This is amazing, just wisdom, right? Wisdom learned through hard-won conversations and maybe not so hard-won after a time, right? Because you found out, hey, I can do this thing, and it's there and it's capable. And we're so grateful you came on. What can we do out in the community here and our listeners to expose them to what you're doing? We talked about a bunch of your books, kind of Secret Knocks. Is there anything else? Wishman, the Netflix movie about the founder of Make-A-Wish. Anything else out there that you're plugging right now?
I'm not plugging with clarity anything.
Sure.
We're just having a conversation. So
absolutely,
the whole idea is that people want that separation, and they go, "Hey, I want that access." Just go to secretknock.co, register. Trust me, it's worth it. Doesn't mean you get to go when you register, by the way. It just means you apply, and then someone will call you, make sure you're not a wackerdoodle wearing a tinfoil hat talking to dead aliens. And if you're normal and it makes a good fit, then we can bring you into the circle. And the way it works, it costs $3,000 to go, and we will not tell you where it is or who will be there. That's the way it is. And all we'll do is tell you the city, state, and the date, and then you can book your hotel reservations on your own, and then we'll leak the location as we go. And we do that because the people we invite are very exclusive, and we don't want people just dropping in out of the blue. So I'm going to end with this, though, because I want to give a nugget more important is anything. I did a book a year ago called Wealth Made Easy. And I went around the world and I interviewed people worth $100 million to $1 billion. And I kept going, there's got to be a hack to all this stuff. And I just want to know a hack to making wealth. And I kept asking all these people, and it was so simple. And I'm going to give you two, and I'll close. One, the first billionaire, I said, how did you make $1 billion in dirt? And he said, time plus land is wealth. Like, what do you mean? He goes, all I do is I look for a town that's growing exponentially at 25% a year. Go on Google Maps, it's free. He goes, I find Broadway, Main Street, and I draw a line out 8 miles. I buy the dirt. That's it. I rent the dirt to farmers. They pay the lease, so it's free land to me, and I get vegetables for years. And as the town continues to grow at 25%, it ends up on my plot. And since I'm on Broadway, Main Street, I own the biggest amount of land. That's what I resell to the big box stores for 800 times what I paid. $1 billion. And all these people had the greatest little ahas and nuggets and wisdoms. It was mind-boggling. But my favorite aha came from a guy named Mark Anthony Bates. He's not a gadillionaire, but when I share with this, it changed my life. I hope we can end on this note because it might change yours. It's an acronym that stands for CPC. If I could turn back time, I wish I would have learned this when I was a kid. But this is the secret of all success. It's accountability and responsibility for every single thing that happens. It's not other people's fault. It's your fault. CPC. It stands for clues, patterns, choices. Example, I'm a single guy. I go out on a first date. The woman happens to be 20 minutes late. Anything could have happened, but that's a little red flag. That's a clue. If I go on the 5th, 6th, and 7th date, and each time she's 20 minutes late, that forms the P, a pattern. Now it's my C choice whether I deal with it, yell at her, break up with her, but it's not her fault. She's just late. Stop trying to change people to fit into your own little paradigm. But we see people with a bad reputation in business. They'll cheat your best friend. We do business with them thinking it'll be different this time. And when things go wrong, we're mad at the person. It's like seeing a rattlesnake rattle, bite your kid's sister, you go to pet it, get bit, and you're mad at the snake. Accountability and responsibility. When we look back on our life, rarely are we angry with the relationships we went into or the business things that didn't go the way we expected. We're just angry that we stayed in too long. We saw the clue, we saw the pattern, but we chose to, hopefully it'll change, or they'll change, or we'll change, or whatever change. It just doesn't work that way. Most successful people look for the clues, they see the patterns, and they make their choices instantaneously. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
Word out.
Thanks again to Greg for joining us on the Eyes Up Mindset podcast today. A ton of incredible stuff, and we're going to digest that a little bit here. First of all, if you're interested in what he's doing, go check it out. He said at secretknock.co, or just Google Greg Reid. We're going to have links to all of his books and some of his stuff in our show notes. So check that out. Don't forget to check us out on our social media. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you do go check us out, send us a note. Send us the note that you said, hey, we saw you. We listened to the pod. We love it. We hate it, whatever. Just interact with us. That's the biggest thing, because we're about connecting with you guys. So Jamie, I don't know where to start on the takeaways, because there's 4 or 5 or 6 different things in that period of time. It makes me feel a little bit like, talking to our head football coach, where it's like, holy cow, it's just a bunch all at once, and it's all good. Right. So let's just dive in. What stands out to you are a couple of things that you wanted to, tease out a little bit.
Even as you were calling for people to reach out to us, I would encourage the piece that he used. Be specific. What episode did you listen to? What did you like about it? How do you want to connect with us? Do you like, we're open and available to have some time to chat too. How much time do you want? What do you want to talk about? Like, those are places where we can then honor and give away, called out the thing that we are about, is to give it away. And so I think that idea of specificity was huge. The other thing that hit me was this idea of today, right? Where is somebody doing the thing that I want to do today? We're so willing to maybe look into the past or into the future, but what is going on right now that I can then enroll myself in with them and their leadership to say, how is this happening right now? What about for you, man?
Yeah, no, I think, and to go along with that, he used this concept of call up and call out. Like, go find people that are way up there. Go to the front of the line. Like, those people are actually more accessible than some of the other people that are still in the hustle, right? And focused on, he used the analogy of the real estate agent with 14 people protecting him, which I think that's true, right? Like, we get so caught up and bogged down. So for us, and for you out there, if you have an idea, if you want to go find the people that are getting the results that you want today, go seek them out, see what they're doing, right? And try to replicate that for yourself.
And so a couple of years ago, I had some triple jumpers that were both state tournament caliber athletes, and I didn't know how to coach them. They had gone beyond my skill set. So I emailed an athlete who was an Olympian and is a coach of elite athletes. And it was unbelievable. I said, can I have a half hour of your time to talk about some things to help get my athletes to the next level? She gave me an hour. Right. And I was like, I want to respect your time. I want to honor your time. She's like, no, we're good. Here's the next detail, and was unbelievably generous with her time. And I think there are so many people out there that want to help and want to give it away. And if it doesn't happen with the first one, try again. And so there are people available, and we've all had those experiences.
And then I think the last thing, just watching you on film, and if you haven't checked out our YouTube page, go check it out. Eyes Up Mindset channel. But just watching the video of you when he got into that last concept reminded me of, a old Baptist preacher at the end saying, okay, here it is. Here's the thing, right? And it was CPC, this personal accountability and responsibility of clues, patterns, and choices. Right now, if you're listening to this and you don't know you don't remember him talking about this, go back and listen to it. But we go through our lives and we see clues about certain things, whether it's our relationships, our work, our performance, whatever it is. And then sometimes we see the pattern, right? Once we see the clue, there's going to be a pattern at some point, probably. And then we have a choice, right? Do we continue with that, or do we discard it and we go a different direction? How did you interact with that? How did that hit home for you, and give the challenge to our listeners?
I had a friend of mine who was a coach that used to say all the time, life is about choices. And the thing that I always took from that is we'd be talking about athletes that we have and the things they chose not to do, right? The things that they opted out of that maybe other athletes that were farther down the road weren't opting out of. They chose to opt in. They chose to enroll because they saw a pattern in someone else that said that thing is the thing that I need to be doing. And they had the wisdom to dial in from early on. I see this clue. I need to know more. So I keep looking, I keep identifying, I look for a pattern. And then ultimately I have a choice. I love that he said, don't blame somebody else, because it's your choice. In the end, it is up to you. Another coach of mine said, if it is to be, it's up to me. You have a choice. Identify the clues that are out there for you. Then look for patterns. Ultimately, make choices that serve you and others.
And as always, live eyes up.